So,
What's my mission?
your mission,
This is going off down the rabbit hole again,
Yeah.
but
I'd love to know.
the tick-tock.
Oh, look, a cat who sits.
You train pigeons
Yeah.
to play ping pong.
So, I think, a sheep cat would be a very good thing.
So-
Wow, who would have thought it?
Are we calling this one solved?
Your mission, should you choose to accept it,
I might not.
and you don't have to, any of these things, but if you wanted to,
Thank you.
I'd love to know if you could train a cat like you can train a dog to do the things that dogs do.
Oh, okay. So you mean train a cat to do dog activities?
No, not necessarily.
Or in the same,
in
using
the same
method?
vein. Like dogs, people use them as like working animals, and then they use they
Like, could you have a sheep cat?
Can you? Yeah. Why not? Actually, why couldn't you have a sheep cat?
I don't know,
Could
but
you
I will
train a
try and
cat?
find out.
Okay, so that's a good idea. Actually, what do dogs do? And what
Okay.
I'm thinking is like going to the beach to walk your dog, like people do here all the time.
Yeah.
And then you put your dog on a lead, and it walks with you with the group to a
Yeah.
destination. You could walk up to the cafe, you could get a coffee, sit on the beach,
Yeah.
run around on the beach. It comes back when it's called, and then you walk back home again. Yeah.
So you're asking yourself, if you had the time and the inclination and the effort and the technique, could you train a cat to do those sorts of things, like walking to heel or...
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And almost as far as, could you train? Your dog, a sheep cat. I think is great. It's a great idea. It's a great visual image. But also, I think, a sheep cat would be a very good thing. Why wouldn't it be able to do the job really adequately? It's got all the abilities. The reason why I thought this is I know that you can train a cat because we have done it.
Yeah.
And Lola will sit
Yeah.
for food. She will come when called.
Yeah.
And she will fetch as well. So I know that it's possible, and it's whether or not you can take that to another level. It almost seems like novelty value when you do it. You go, oh look, a cat who sits. You go, well, why shouldn't they? If they can do that, why can't they do all the other things that dogs do?
Yeah. Okay. I will try and find you and us some answers, and I will report back.
Okay.
So earlier today, Kevin gave me a whole heap of completely insane questions to try and research, and the craziest one was, can you train a cat to be a sheepdog? And it has kind of been driving me wild ever since, because obviously it's a crazy question, but I kind of don't know why. So that is where I'm going to start. Okay. I've been away.
Good.
And I've gone down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
I have some answers. I don't know if you're going to be satisfied with them.
I'll be happy with whatever you've got, really. I'm not expecting too much.
Oh, thanks.
No, do you know what I mean? I sort of expect, obviously I know that you'll research it like mad because that's what you do, but I don't expect anything, I just want the truth.
All right, so I actually started by looking at sheep cat dogs. I realised I don't know anything about sheepdogs.
Yeah.
So my first job was actually learning what a sheepdog is and how you train one.
Other than it's coming underneath them. Oh, listen, surely you can see them there.
I just have to tell you, I've rediscovered a show that I used to watch as a kid in like the 80s and 90s, but this is from 1979, so it must have run for decades, and it's called One Man and His Dog, and it is a sheepdog competition. So there's like a bunch of sheep, they're in a beautiful place, they're shepherds, they've brought their dogs, and they are competing. And it sounds like the most boring TV in the world, but it's completely nail-biting, and you're like shouting at the telly saying, the sheep are behind you, and he's like, he's lost the sheep, he's got the sheep. But as riveting as it is, it's also really helpful because I'm getting a good sense of what it would take to train a sheep, cat, dog. So I promise this is for research purposes. I am going to watch some more. So I found a sheepdog training manual, and at first I was like nodding along quite a lot. So it was like, teach your dog to recall, and I was like,
Yeah, I can do that. Check.
Yeah. And then like, teach your dog to run around in a circle.
Yeah, you can do that. Okay, so at what point did you go, doze? no, I can't do that.
Okay. Well,
Cats don't do that,
in the training, I didn't.
right?
I didn't stop nodding, but I did see repeated references to the fact that in a sheepdog's training, essentially what you're, like the raw material that you're working with is the fact that dogs have a innate desire to hunt. Large or to medium-sized mammals.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So there's an inbuilt attraction to going after that sheep,
Yes.
to stalking the sheep.
yeah, and in the training you have to control it because obviously you don't want the dog to attack
it.
the sheep. And it made me think that essentially, like we know when we play with a cat with a feather toy, the reason they're enjoying that is because it's their predatory sequence unfolding. Like, it doesn't end, they don't eat the toy.
No.
But there's an enjoyment in letting that unfold.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that made me feel like,
Mouse
yeah,
herding.
you could train a cat to go through the motions and do the things, like putting aside the fact they'll probably be afraid of the sheep and that's a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
But that they're lacking that raw, innate predatory instinct that the sheepdogs have.
Yep, I get that.
So I'm afraid your dreams of entering like one man's
cat.
are,
It's not going to happen.
Oh well, it's
There's
not
a whole new-
hard, no, but it's probably like maybe don't try.
That was my get out of jail millionaires card.
That was your
It's
dream.
the next format. One man and his cat.
Yeah. Don't.
No.
Okay,
Well, never mind.
So that's sheepdogs. But something happened while I was looking at sheepdogs that actually took me down a whole other rabbit hole. Okay, I'm actually quite excited because I found something in a sheepdog training manual of all places. It even has a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. This is how lofty a business we are in. The quote says, "Power is of two kinds. One is obtained by the fear of punishment and the other by acts of love. Power based on love is 1,000 times more effective and permanent than the one derived from fear of punishment." That's a Gandhi quote. And then he goes on to say all this stuff, and I feel like I've just got my fingertips on the beginning of an answer to Kevin's question. It all started off when I was reading the sheepdog training manual. There was a note in it about how historically sheepdogs and other working dogs have been trained using, I suppose if you had to typify methods of training as like more carrot and more stick,
Yeah.
they definitely erred towards the stick end of the spectrum. So they would be trying to control a dog, they would punish the dog for doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I kind of do it, or bad things happen.
yeah. And this started to change
Yeah.
through the sort of like early whispers in the 60s, building, and then in the 90s there was like a real sea change in the accepted wisdom of how to train a dog
Right.
that moved much more towards the carrot end of the spectrum.
Yeah. Because they thought it was ethically the right thing to do, or because of was it based on results or new techniques or something?
Right, so this is where I think a little history lesson is quite interesting.
Right.
One pigeon pecks the ball as it comes toward him and knocks it toward the other pigeon. The other pigeon pecks the ball back across the table.
This guy has trained a pigeon to play ping pong. I've seen it all, but literally, I mean, if a pigeon can play ping pong, then why can't we train a cat to do anything? So, turns out, in the 30s, there was a guy called Skinner, and he looked into the way that animals learn things. He was quite a funny character. He trained pigeons to play ping pong.
It's
No, but like genuinely, and they would
That's
have
ace.
to win to get the food.
like that.
Okay, so
Brilliant.
Skinner was interested in how animals, humans included, learn new things.
Yeah.
So I'll show you, I'll do a little diagram just to make it clearer. He worked out that there are essentially 4 ways to teach an animal something new.
Okay.
2 of them were well known to dog trainers of old. Collectively, let's call them punishment. And punishment could be a bad thing starting. So, for instance, your dog kills your favourite plants by digging in the pot and you yell at them.
Yep.
Then another way you could punish an animal and they would be able to learn is by a good thing stopping. the classic is parent to their child. You didn't finish your homework on time and you've got a report from school, I'm going to take your phone away. But Skinner also found that there are two other ways that animals can learn things, and we could call these collectively reinforcement, because they make an action more likely to happen in future. So one way of reinforcing a behaviour and making an animal able to learn what we want them to do is by a good thing starting. So an example of a good thing starting when you do what the trainer is looking for is we teach our cats to recall. When they come to us, we give them a treat. So that's a good thing beginning.
Good thing beginning.
The other way we could reinforce is by a bad thing ending.
Okay.
So a bad thing ending as a way of learning something is the traditional way you used to teach dogs to sit. So you would push down on their rear legs, which is uncomfortable for them.
Yeah,
That's
but
a
they're
bad
not liking
thing.
something.
They're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
liking it, not liking it, not liking
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And then they discover that when they sit fully down, you
It
release
stops.
that pressure.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
recommending anyone does this, by the way, but
No,
you
I get
release
it.
that pressure and the bad thing ends and they're like, that's what I need to do.
Yeah.
And what Skinner discovered is that all of these are moments in which an animal can learn. But what's interesting about them is there is a difference in how they make the animal feel.
Okay.
So people have done studies looking at both side by side and comparing them in dogs but also in other animals.
Yeah.
And they found that yes, you can learn using both methods.
Yeah.
But if you use the bad thing starting and stopping training techniques, your animal will get potentially afraid.
Yeah.
They might get discouraged or angry.
Yeah.
They'll associate
Stressed
you.
probably as well.
And they'll associate you with bad things happening.
Yeah,
so they'll be
yeah.
much less motivated to train. And what's really interesting is that when I was looking at this, I discovered that essentially this so although the science for this was done by Mr. Pigeon Ping Pong in the 30s, that growing awareness of this as a training technique actually came out of some military research that was done in the 60s.
Well, now, if you're wondering why the Navy is so interested in dolphins, the reason is quite simple.
They wanted to train dolphins to go out into the open ocean and run missions and then come back.
Yeah.
And they discovered two things. One is, technically, how do you punish a dolphin? I mean, you can't shout at it, or it's very difficult from a practical perspective.
I'd love to know what upsets a dolphin.
You know,
Stick your tongue out at it, I don't know, whatever.
But additionally, if you were mean to them,
Yeah.
they'd swim out into the ocean
And not come back.
never come back.
Yeah, I get that.
So they had to revisit this 1930s science to find ways of training animals in a way that that animal would want to be trained.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I'm telling you all of this is that cats are like dolphins.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can see the connection between the cat and the dolphin. If you're mean to a cat, it'll go, I'm going in this direction, I'm going to stay away from you.
Yeah,
As we all know, there are
exactly.
some cats that just distance themselves.
Yeah, cats are really, really
They're more
susceptible
dependent,
to this
aren't they?
effect.
Yeah.
They experience a lot of stress or anxiety with these aversive training techniques.
And they tend to withdraw themselves away from stressful situations.
Yeah, and I think we can all identify with this. When they're stressful, so they just don't learn.
Yeah,
we all know what
yeah.
it's like that just before an exam and you're trying to cram information, you're so stressed you just can't take information in.
Yeah.
That is the world of a cat being taught using these aversive techniques. So essentially, what I put to you is, in the history of dog training, but skewed much more heavily towards the punishment end of the spectrum, people tried it with cats and they were like, cats are not trainable. But when people started to recognise that you could use positive reinforcement techniques, the good end of the spectrum, the carrot, then cats actually were eminently trainable as much as dogs. So when you asked me, can you train a cat like a dog? I feel like the answer is yes, but you have to use the right technique.
Yeah. So you can't train them like you can train a dog, but there is two ways to train a dog, one of which works with a cat, the other one doesn't.
Correct. Oh my God, I have read and learned so much in trying to answer these questions. I feel like my head is going to explode. And ultimately, I'm going to have to wrangle it all together and tie it up in a bow and try and give Kevin the gift of an answer to his original question. I just really hope that I can pull it off. So that is the training method.
Yeah.
But you also asked me if you could do things with a cat that you can do with a dog.
Yeah.
And for this, I think we have to circle back to the sheepdog instinctive hunting stuff.
Right.
Because there are differences between cats and dogs. I mean, we've already seen it.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes sense to work with what an animal already enjoys doing and then train upon that. There's no point in training a cat to do something that it has no natural desire to do. I mean, you can do it. It is physically possible.
Yeah.
But in terms of their enrichment and their enjoyment, working with their raw materials, the way they experience the world, the things they like to do, feels like that much more of a sensible thing. And personality will come into it as well.
Yeah. This is going off down the rabbit hole again,
Yeah.
but the way that we toilet our cats and dogs is different.
Yeah.
People tend to take their dog outside once, twice a day for a walk. And they enjoy a walk and then they come home.
Yeah.
But a cat tends to have its toilet inside the house. Doesn't need to go for a walk. No motivation. There's a pretty strong motivation for a dog to leave the house.
100%.
So you can see that fundamental difference in their keeping changes the way that they see walking and going outside.
Yeah.
They have a different perspective on a walk than a cat. So actually, if you were to take your cat out to the toilet every morning, every evening, it would probably still follow this. It would have the same motivation and would probably walk much more like a dog.
Well, yeah, I mean, one thing you've identified is when we're talking about training, two people are being trained. There's the animal and the human.
The human, yeah.
And if you don't have a toilet for your dog in your house and you have to take them out so they can use the bathroom, you're going to be super motivated to engage in daily training to perfect that technique and make it a natural part of your day. And the same is true of all animals. Regularity, routine,
all
crucial parts of the training picture. So,
wow, who'd have thought it? That toilets were actually going to the toilet was actually the what do you call it? What's that thing that goes when you're playing piano? The tick tock, tick tock, tick.
Metronome.
The metronome was the metronome of training and metronome of walking. That is the strong motivator. Yeah.
Okay,
So I'm happy. No, good. Thank you for that little tangent. I just
Satisfied?
I just need to talk through the dog walking and cat thing. And now, I'm totally happy. 100% happy.
Okay.
No more supplementary questions.
Yes!
You're off the hook for this week.
Very much.
But there'll be another one.
Yeah,
There'll be more.
There will be more.
There will be more.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in really quickly while I've got you to say we have popped some treats in the description below, which I think you're going to love. The first one is, as founders of Supakit, we wanted to gift you 10% off for our collars, harnesses and leashes, and you can find the link to get that in the description below. And there is also a link to our free 10-day harness training bootcamp. So if you have been inspired by today's episode to train your cat, then definitely check that one out. We're also open to suggestions. If there is a topic you would love us to tackle in a future episode, just let us know in comments. Not that Kevin needs any inspiration, but just pop it there. We'll read them all and we will see you next time.